Welcome to Unsilent with your hosts Dave and Brian. This is not another current events podcast. We are digging deeper, diagnosing, and discussing what's really going on today, how we got here, and providing observations for future generations.
Welcome to Unsilent. We're Brian and Dave. We'd love to hear where you think we got it right and where you think we got it wrong. You can do that by visiting unsilentpodcast.com or visit Rumble and watch our smiling faces there, and of course also other social media platforms. Well, so Brian, here we are. We're now let's see. We're in what day of the ceasefire are we at? The Great New Deal that in around. That's always
well. It depends. Are we resetting the clock every time somebody fires a rocket, or are we just dismissing all those and saying the original ceasefire dates is good?
We can't reset. I mean, the clock would break if we reset it every time we had somebody fired a rocket. Jeez, that's
all right. Then I think we're on like day 9 then, or day 7. I don't know, something like that.
Have you noticed that they were sending out JD Vance to talk, and now this is probably something that's going to be lost to history a little bit, but they're sending JD Vance out to do all the talking and all the discussions, and now it's all Marco Rubio is getting sent to talk, and he's the one that's all over social media and the news and such. What do you make of that?
I don't know. I'm sure there's a strategy behind it. I don't know what it is. I kind of think part of me thinks that the Republican Party is trying to figure out what they're supposed to do. Meaning, we talked a few weeks ago. I was talking about like the golden calves that people would have to give up. Yeah. And I said one of the ones for Republicans I thought was going to be Israel.
Sure.
And there's a noticeable division in the Republican Party now regarding Israel. Now, sure. I'm not conflating that with regarding Jews. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying regarding Israel. I'm going to be clear about that.
Yeah.
The perception, whether it's real or not, or accurate or not, I should say, I don't know. But the perception, I think, is that JD Vance was against the Iran war and Marco Rubio was for it. And the perception, I believe, is JD Vance is more skeptical of Israel, their intentions, their influence, et cetera, et cetera. Marco Rubio is all in, a la Ted Cruz and that Lindsey Graham and that lot.
Yep.
I don't know what the strategy is, but I wouldn't be shocked if they're like, well, let's just send out both sides and see which one people like better, and that's our talking points for the midterms.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I heard somebody, I don't remember who it was, postulate that maybe it's because there was that meeting in Switzerland where Vance basically looked like he was kind of playing second fiddle to the Iranians, because the Iranians said, no, what you're talking about is bull. They're going to walk out. And so Trump, of course, doesn't like to be thought of as and he's getting so much pushback from the hawk side of the party that, it's just getting so much pushback. I mean, the Tom Cottons of the world, Ted Cruz and other folks like that. I mean, it's really, Trump has been one of those guys that nothing sticks to, right? Like he said, he could go out to Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, his base would still be with him. But I read that like 39% of his base supports him now in terms of like this deal. And so, and of course, Rubio is a long time. I mean, he's probably the smartest guy in foreign policy in DC, and he's been the one that's been the most hawkish of the Republican Party since he was a senator a long time ago. So setting him out now, perhaps to appease the base a bit, is I think a smart strategy on their part.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at if you trust polling numbers, which I honestly,
sure,
full disclosure, don't know how much you can. Like, I don't know. But if you trust the polling numbers, Trump took a real big hit with the war in Iran from people who were like, hey, you said no endless stupid wars in the Middle East. And hey, this kind of feels like that. And then that was right within a few weeks of Bobby Kennedy Jr. getting kind of put in his place a little bit, and some of the things they were pushing being diminished, which was on the heels of the Epstein debacle. And like, we have all the files on my desk, and then as of today, 0 arrests. In fact, we've arrested 5 people for defacing the reflecting pool, which is 5 more arrests that happened in the Epstein files. which was on the heels of the Doge cuts like being a meaningless BS talking point. So
Yep.
he kind of strung together a series of, you know, what do you call it? Campaign promises
Yeah.
that he's just like punted.
Yeah.
Um, he took a big hit though with the thing in Israel in Iran for
Yeah.
sure. And
Absolutely.
then in kind of an ironic turn of events when he's like, okay, we're taking the L, even though he's presenting it as a W. We're
Yep.
taking the L and walking away. Then he pissed off the only people who were still supporting him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard and it's really kind of hard. Well, I mean, I'm glad that we're not there anymore in terms of, that piece.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's just, well, it was always going to be, a loss. I mean, it was never not going to be. I mean, it's like, so,
We
spin it.
don't have the appetite for boots on the ground, and that's what it would
No,
take. And
no, yeah,
yeah,
you got to send a million men there I mean, it's a country of 91 million people. It's a huge country. It's mountainous. You're not gonna do it. It's just
no,
not gonna happen. You can't do it from
no,
the air.
no,
It's like I was
yeah,
listening to somebody defend the whole thing, and they said, well, no, they're gonna do it, or else Trump's gonna bomb them again. Well, what? He's been bombing him. It didn't do any good. They
yeah,
don't care. I mean, they'll just go live in
yeah,
caves. I mean, you don't give a rip.
yeah.
So yeah,
So back to your original question, my gut tells me this is mopping up on all fronts, and
yeah,
how you mop in the front of the house is different than how you mop in the back of the house. So
sure.
JD has a role he's mopping, Rubio's got a role he's mopping, but it's all covering up a massive L.
Yeah, oh, it is. It is. And well, and the biggest loss of the entire thing is that they didn't understand this is going to be a loss to start with. They didn't understand, I think I've talked about a book that I've read or listened to about the kind of the next age and what makes countries great and how the old system is over. It's a sort of a companion book in my mind, at least. It's a different author to the Fourth Turning that we talk about a lot. And the one of the premises of that book is that all of human history has been massively, massively influenced. The powerful have been influenced by waterways, by straits in particular, straits and rivers. Those two things, wherever there's rivers and wherever there's straits, is going to influence to a tremendous extent who has power in the world. And the
Yeah,
Strait of Hormuz, the Suez Canal, the Panama Canal, the Strait of Taiwan, you go all, these are the things that cause economies to rise and fall on planet Earth. And then in the US, one of the reasons we're the greatest country on earth is because we got a lot of rivers. We got a lot of rivers. I
yeah,
mean, people
and
don't
two
think about
gigantic oceans keeping us safe from
that.
all the
Keeping
predators
us safe.
in the
Exactly.
wild.
Exactly. So, if they didn't understand that the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea, for instance, are hugely important, and you're not going to be able to just bomb somebody into submission to prevent them from, attacking ships that go through, then I don't know how they think. I just don't know how they, could come to that
Yeah, I think that the thing that for Kenny G, um, how would you describe Iran's influence in the world? 6 months ago.
Oh, they were the pariah. They were the number one sponsor of terror, and they were pretty much a pariah across the world, except for a few of their friends that the enemy of my enemy. That was then.
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of influence, though. Fair to
No,
say.
no.
Yeah, and now as part of this MOU, this ceasefire agreement, they are wrapping up other countries into that. Like, hey,
Yeah,
not only are we going to be safe, those countries are going to be safe, and if they're not, the deal's off. In
yeah.
my opinion, that's only the kind of thing a superpower can do.
Well, absolutely. They have become essentially, arguably. I mean, Israel is a big power in the Middle East, but arguably Iran is the most influential country in the Middle East
Yes,
now. I
I
mean,
would I would agree. Yeah. I
and
mean, think about, could Saudi Arabia do that? Probably. They probably could say, "Hey, you come after Oman, you got to deal with us." But you know, what impact would that have on the
yeah,
world? Their military is negligible. Okay,
yeah,
Russia has certainly done that. Soviet Union, China has certainly done that, but Portugal's not doing that.
no, right,
Papua New Guinea's not doing that, right? Many countries can't do that. Well, Iran, not only can they do that, say the words
yeah,
and mean it in this agreement, they can back it up. Now, they can't do it with military force, but they can do it in arguably a more effective manner, which is, okay, we'll we'll just make everything cost 30% more. How you like them apples?
Absolutely. And economy is just as important, if not more important, especially in the 21st century. I mean, you
Right.
go back 100 years, maybe not so much, but now, if you start interrupting people's ability to get their new iPhone, if you interrupt people's ability to travel from place to place with reasonable gas prices, or they can't turn on the heat, then yeah, you've arguably got an economic superpower because they can just constrict it. And the thing that people don't, I think, realize is that, well, yeah, it's just 20%, but 20% of the world's oil is, controls the price of oil, controls the whole thing essentially. So you cut that off, and sure, we can get oil other places, and sure, they're going to build pipelines around the Strait of Hormuz now, but it's going to take 10, 15, 20 years to do that.
Yep.
It gives them a huge, and I would postulate that Iran didn't even know that they had the power to the degree that they have now. I would argue that they probably didn't even know it was this powerful before.
I would tend to agree, because otherwise, why wouldn't they have done it before?
Yeah, I think they realized through this that, yeah, all we got to do is we got that long coastline there. All we got to do is position a whole bunch of people with drones and with missiles, and in places where you're not going to be able to see us from a satellite, underneath a tarp with some sand on top of you. And we don't even send an aircraft carrier within 50 miles of the place. Why is that?
Yeah.
I mean, the most sophisticated floating weapon devised by the human mind can't even go, because there's some desert dwellers on the beaches that could potentially get a missile through that sinks a multi-billion-dollar aircraft carrier. I mean, no,
Yeah.
I don't think they realized it.
Yeah. So I just, as I think about it, I think that not only was it a tremendous miscalculation, and I don't know what they were thinking. I don't quite understand what the other than Venezuela was so easy. We
Yeah,
just thought this was going to be a layup. Also, like, well, if we can do it in a weekend. Like, we got nothing else to do. Let's go ahead and take care of that real quick, and then we'll move on to Cuba and Greenland and whatever.
right.
I I I tend to believe that they grossly overestimated how easy it would be.
Yeah.
And part of me is like, how in the world can you have people with infinite budgets and infinite amount of time in man hours to figure things out who couldn't see this coming? Now, I give us lay people a pass on this, because none of us sit around thinking about what Iran's capabilities can do
Sure.
in the event of something like this. There's entire departments who do nothing but this.
Yeah.
How in the world do they not see this coming? And they've had 47 years that we've heard over and over again, and
Yeah.
an infinite budget to identify these things. What the hell is going on over there where they can't see this coming in advance? Like, come on, guys.
Well, I mean, it to me, this is an emperor has no clothes scenario. I mean,
100%.
so basically, Trump said, I mean, it's the thing is, Trump is getting a lot of stuff done. Why? Because everybody's afraid of him. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody just does what he says to do. And they're like, okay, well, yes, boss, we'll do that. And nobody wants to tell him that he doesn't have any clothes on. No, nobody wants to tell him that this is a situation. So I would bet any amount of money that Rubio, probably JD Vance, probably the entire CIA establishment, plenty of think tanks, I would bet that there's zillions of people that knew that this was exactly going to happen or could happen like this. But the people close to him didn't want to challenge him on it. And thank you for your attention to this matter. There you go.
Well, this a story, not the story, a story that's pretty consistently being floated out there is all the things you just said are true,
Yeah,
but it's not necessarily his inner circle that he believed. Rather, it's the Israeli um, uh, spy network. The
sure.
intelligence service said, "Yeah, your people are telling you this. That's not true. There's things they don't know. We have this inside information.
Sure.
If you strike right now, it's all going to be a house of cards. They're going to
Yeah.
tumble." And he chose to listen to the Israeli intelligence services instead of our own. And here we are. And again, this is part of, like, we were talking a few weeks ago about, like, well, Israel doesn't get that much money from us, and they're not
Yeah.
really. I think this is the kind of thing that people key in on, is like, okay, we have smart people who've had 47 years and infinite budgets to
Sure.
figure this out. In hindsight, a lay person can go, yeah, we should have seen this coming. How could you not? and the fact that if it's true that he did listen to the Israeli intelligence instead of our own, I think this is the kind of thing that's really starting to piss people off, because here we are again.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, we just have egg on our face. Best case scenario.
Right.
Worst case scenario, because the SPR is down to the lowest level since 1983.
Yeah.
We have not even begun to pay the price for this thing yet in a
Oh,
monetary fashion.
not at all. I totally agree. Yeah. Well, now the thing about Israel, though, I am sure the Mossad are not idiots. They're the Mossad and Netanyahu and all those guys are absolutely not idiots. They have their own self-interest, absolutely. But they had to know. They had to know that this would happen. That they would end up as a result of this being a diminished in their power by the U.S. doing this, because they know that we run on oil. So I have a hard time, wrapping my head around that argument, because it would have been obvious.
I think they misread Trump. I think they believed that when this happened, he would double down, and he didn't.
Send in troops. That he would send in troops.
Or take over Carg Island, or all the various things that have been floated around, the things we could do. I think they believed, and if, putting myself in their shoes, a guy with his kind of ego, if I was predicting what he would do, I'd say, yeah, he's not going to take the L. No way he's going to take a loss. He's going to double down until he wins. If that means 500,000 people go to war, that's what it means. I think that's probably a pretty safe bet on their part, honestly. I don't like it. I disagree with the philosophy of it.
Oh, yeah.
I still think it was probably a safe bet. And I think that they just misread him.
Yeah, I mean, that could be. I just don't see any scenario in which Trump would have done that. That Trump would have committed troops. You know what I mean? I think that where's the line? I mean, it's hard to say where the line is with Trump, because he's so sort of capricious in his decision.
Yeah, he's all over the place. He's erratic at best.
Yes, exactly. Well, yeah. What's the Trump strategic plan? It's whatever makes sense to him in the moment. That's what
I gotta tell you. I'm beginning. It was humorous in a not funny, but like just laughing at people not with them kind of way at first. But now it's really starting to piss me off that as they go through this MOU and they're talking about what a great victory it is, and like, look at all these things we accomplished. I'm like, you can go point by point through that thing, and they do 2 things and we do 12, and the 12 things we do vastly outweigh the 2 that they do.
Exactly.
You can put all the lipstick on this, you won. It's still a giant loss.
Oh, it is. Yeah, there's no way to spin it. I've talked to people online about this, and they say, well, it's this, and I just quote the MOU, and I say, tell me how you can read this as a rational human being as anything but a gigantic surrender, Trump on his knees. How can you read? I don't have to put my own opinion out there, spin a hypothesis. It's just paste the text of the MOU.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So if I'm keeping track correctly, we were 39-0 when the ceasefire started. And now, despite rocket flare-ups and things, we're still under a quote unquote ceasefire, and everything's going to be kumbaya, even though we've not even yet begun to pay the price with oil prices and all that stuff. Yeah. So good times ahead, Dave.
Oh yeah, there you go. I mean, I'm still thinking about I think we talked offline about this is a good time to invest in oil. I mean,
I didn't spend much, but I spent a little bit. Okay. So all right, in more in less serious things, there's an announcement today that I doubt is making the mainstream press. So you probably haven't heard of it. You maybe you did, but because you're pretty tuned in. But this is the kind of thing I would be kind of surprised if it's mainstream. But before I announce what the announcement was, how would you characterize how Mike Lindell was perceived, generally speaking?
Yeah, well,
Mike Lindell, the pillow guy, the My Pillow guy.
Oh yeah, no, I know who Mike Lindell is. Yeah, I mean he was as Trumpy a Trump supporter as there could be. He even risked his company to support Trump. So he was all in on Trump.
Fair to say that people perceive him as kind of a lunatic, like a wacko.
Well, that too. Yeah, that too. Especially after his last go around with Trump. Yeah, a lot of people, myself included, like, huh, what?
All right. Well, here we go. Dominion, the voting company that sued him for $1.3 billion, agreed to dismiss their case today with prejudice. They cannot go after him again. And it looks like they might be required to kind of produce some receipts. And so far, it ain't looking good.
Wow.
And the reason I bring this up, like it'll unfold. Like there's already numbers being thrown out about, like, for example, in Georgia, where Trump lost by 11,000 votes.
Mm-hmm.
there's 22,000 votes that they're kind of like in this weird category where they don't really know what happened to them.
Yeah.
Same thing in Pennsylvania, same thing in like maybe Michigan or one of the other swing states or whatever. Anyhow, it reminds me of, I don't know if you ever read Aesop's Fables when you were a kid.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
For whatever reason, there's like three that I remember there's no rhyme or reason why these three stick out to me, but one of them though is a fable, an Aesop fable. I remember being like 11 years old reading this in my little Aesop's Fables book that I had for whatever reason. I don't know very many 11-year-olds that are into that kind of thing, but that kind of gives you a little insight into how nerdy I am about stuff.
Right.
But this particular fable is about a pig farmer, and there's a pig calling contest. It's a contest of who can mimic the sound of a pig the best.
Okay.
And they get all these people, they go up on the stage and they take their turns and whatever. And this guy's just like a dopey, poor farmer. Like everybody looks down on him. He's kind of the pariah, the little village or town or whatever they live in. And they have all the more popular, affluent people who are doing this pig calling thing. And the winner, if I remember correctly, was somebody with importance, somebody who's important, and they won, and they were mocking the pig farmer or the farmer on how poorly he was doing his pig impersonation.
Right.
And at the end of the thing, after he loses, he opens his jacket and reveals he actually had a pig under his arm. And he was twisting the pig's ear to make the pig squeal. And there's actually a pig making the noise. So his pig calling was a literal pig.
Right.
And it would like demonstrates like, be careful who you dismiss and all this kind of stuff.
Right. Right.
He kind of reminds me of that. Like he's this guy that's like cuckoo and everybody just dismisses him and blows him off. But you know what? If he turns out to be right on this, holy smokes.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have dismissed him, a while back too. And I respect his story. I love his story. I mean, recovering from drug abuse and turning his, creating the truly American story. So I love Lindell's story. I thought, after all that stuff happened that he was going a little bananas. But yeah, if he turns out to be in the right on all of that, and especially if there's any check, if there's a $1 check written from Dominion to Mike Lindell, then that I gotta 180 degrees.
I don't think there's going to be any checks going from, at least they're not disclosing that. And I imagine that'd be part of the headline if that was what happened. All it says is Dominion dismissed their case. Again, who knows what's true and what's not, but it appears to be accurate.
That's really
also the lawyer, Sydney, what was her name? That was like, she lost all credibility.
Yeah, she was Sydney. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I know what she looks like. I can't remember her last name.
I mean, very high respected, very well thought of. People like, she was brilliant. She says, hey, this election stuff, not so sure about that. In fact, I got the goods here. Ruined her credibility, ruined her reputation. She lost. If these people turn out to be vindicated, I'm not saying it like it's going to move mountains in the public's, in the zeitgeist of people. I just think like these kinds of things, if these people were so harshly dismissed and ridiculed and thought of, like you said, pariahs and all that kind of stuff, if they turn out to be right, Dave, man, I think it's going to be interesting to watch how it all unfolds. I have no idea what it'll mean, if anything, but it'll be interesting to watch for sure.
It will. Well, it will put the lie to so much of the last, I don't know, 10 years. The whole spin that was after the previous election, I was like, just be done with this. Let's go on. But they pursued it and they lost and lost and lost. But if that turns out to be real, then oh my gosh, that's huge. I mean, that really is huge.
Well, it also is like to me, like you and I talk about things that I think are important and meaningful. But even the stuff you and I talk about, I don't think is really at the crux of what the issues are. Sure. Elections not being valid is one of those things that's rarely, if ever, talked about.
Yeah.
And arguably could be one of the top 3 to 5 most important things we got to fix.
Yeah.
But it's never on anybody's radar because we're talking about Elon Musk being a trillionaire and whether we should be in Iran and the how much gas is in California and all the fraud and all this stuff. Well, these things are. There's a handful of things that are way below the surface, way more important. Like I would argue, we talked a few weeks ago, you and I, about we don't even have a foundational document, agreed upon set of rules. Half the country thinks the Constitution is nonsense. Half of the country thinks that we need to get back to that. okay, well, if we can't have a guiding set of principles, like good luck, like we don't, but that's never the
Yeah.
conversation, ever is that the conversation,
Well,
right?
and elections certainly are at the core of that because the difference between our country ostensibly and a lot of the third world countries is that, just revolving election cycle, and you never know if the person in there is actually won the election, and banana republics, all of that stuff that is really at the core of what it
Yeah.
takes to have a free who your leadership is and who makes the laws is at the core of whether you have a functional country or you've got a banana republic.
Yeah, and we talked I don't know, it was last week, the week before, about how the Princeton study on 90% of the laws have zero impact for
Yeah,
regular Americans.
yeah.
I don't know, that might be related to some election problems.
It would seem, yeah, well, it 100% is. Yeah, it 100% is.
All right, one other kind of more trivial thing, and then we'll let you talk about the stuff you want to get into. And when Elon Musk became the first trillionaire, the Elizabeth Warrens of the world and all that ilk were talking about, how unfair it is and how it's, think of all the people that could be fed with $1 trillion and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Somebody pointed out, this his name on X is not Kenny Rogers. I don't know who it is, but
Okay. All
I
right.
thought not Kenny Rogers made a pretty solid point. um, Elizabeth Warren tweeted, if Elon Musk paid my ultra millionaire tax, we would fully cover free community college in America. Now, at the same time Elon Musk became a trillionaire, Obama's library opened up,
Yeah.
which if the numbers are correct, it was something like 850 to 900 million dollars for this big giant monstrosity that
Yeah.
is like, so it's
Horrible.
like a prison in
Yeah, it looks like,
Chicago.
oh, I know, I know.
At the same time, we're talking about all the things that can be done with $1 trillion. We have no interest in what can be done with $850 million. Now, why is
Right.
that, Dave?
Right. Exactly. Well, it's who you know and who you're allowed to criticize and who you're not allowed to criticize.
Well,
And
my point
Obama,
to Kenny G is, you will know things are going off the rails when principles go away, and your tribe can do a thing and it's okay. The other tribe can do that same thing and it's not okay. That, things are off the rails when that starts happening. And I would argue that started happening probably around 2005, 2010, somewhere in there for us.
yeah.
But it's just every day. Every day, people have zero. Like, again, like Mike Lindell, call a guy a quack all you want. He stuck to his principles. I admire a guy who sticks to his principles, even if
Totally.
he's wrong and believes he's doing the right thing. I
Sure.
give the guy a pass for sticking to his principles.
Sure.
Elizabeth Warren, one of the most talkative people in the government, zero principles in my opinion.
Yeah.
I have no use for people like that. Like,
Yep.
if you believe that $1 trillion should be spent for community college, fine. Tell Obama to build a $200 million library or a $50 million library, and let's take his money too. Like, what?
Yeah. Well, that's very consistent of you, Brian. That's way
And
too
by the
consistent.
way, not saying my team is any better than at this.
Right.
I'm not saying it's only their team that does. Our
Sure.
team sucks at this just as bad, and I hate it for our team too. This stuff pisses me off to no end.
Oh yeah, that is the well in when institutions break down, when societal norms break down, and people look only to what they can do, what they can how they can advantage themselves.
Right.
That
What can I get?
what can I do? Well, politicians, Obama, Warren, people on our side, all of them, they just look at how they can advantage themselves, and then they justify it. So, how would Obama justify that? Well, he would justify that by saying, well, my legacy is going to, inform generations of oppressed
Yeah.
peoples, and so
Uplift the oppressed people. Yep.
there's always a justification for it, and it just so happens that aggrandizes and enriches people along the way.
Yeah. All right. Well, what you got for us this week, Dave?
Well, so we as we look at the age we're in, there's one of the books we talk a lot about the fourth turning, and the fourth turning is here. But one of the other books that sort of documents this, is sort of a companion book. In fact, they play off of the fourth turning, is The Pendulum. And part of the premise of The Pendulum is that you can sort of sense the age that you're in and the mood of the age by the popular music of that age. And not just popular music, but the movies and just the popular entertainment culture. And so, I've been watching, you see what comes across your various social media feeds and such. And one of the things that I find fascinating is, and I tie this into the frustration that people have is there is a dramatic upsurge in kind of fight music. Now, I've got three quick little videos I want to play for you that are both entertaining, interesting, and illustrative of the age we're in. So I'm going to just share.
Nice. While you're pulling that up, I'll tell the audience listening. We talk about Neil Howe and Bill Strauss, the authors of Fourth Turning, all the time. We don't mention the authors of Pendulum as often. That's Roy Williams and Michael Drew.
Right.
And frankly, I don't remember their names as well, but it is a fantastic book,
It
and
is.
they deserve as much credit as Howe and Strauss.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, well, the first video I'm going to share is from one of my favorite new artists. I say that a little bit tongue in cheek. His name's Bob Dominator. Bob Dominator.
All right.
Oh, here we're gonna.
Okay, can't wait. What you got here? Dave, do you have the button clicked where we can hear it? Where it's the little box you got to click for the sound?
You're not able to hear it. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, I can kind of sort of hear, but I don't think we're hearing what you're hearing.
Okay, let's see if we can resolve that.
Optimize for sharing or something like that.
Yeah.
It's off to the right. There's two little boxes you got to click after you click the share button. There's two little boxes on the screen that pops up on the right-hand side.
Audio professional, share, and optimize for video sharing. There we go. Thank you. I'm glad you're here for tech support, Brian. I'm just a poor little...
if you're relying on me for tech support, we got real problems.
I guess so. Well, there you go. It's just another part of the age that we're in. Okay, so we're gonna start over.
Here we go. Take two.
And Bob Dominator.
We come from frost and fire, from thunder, from the choir of the hearts that never tire. We are frost, we are fire.
Okay, so that's Bob Dominator. We're gonna close up Bob. I want to play another one for you that's equally interesting.
I kind of like that one.
Yeah, it's kind of catchy, isn't it? Okay, well, here's the next one.
Rides on the breath of the frozen sky, where ravens and thunder and storm clouds fly. Fire in our heart and ice in our veins. The North will never be the same.
Okay, so the North will never be the same. So this one is a one. There's a lot of Norse.
Before you move off that one, I gotta say I miss hard charging rock with female lead singers. I miss that. There's not a lot of hearts left in the world.
Well, the age of that is now here. The age of that
all
is
right. I'm in.
Now, lest you think that this is only for Norse people or people that are just angry. I'm going to show you what church looks like now.
As I say, you share the Golden Girls. What do you?
Well, not quite the Golden Girls, but here's the Preacher Man. This is Evangelist.
All right.
Everybody's killing everybody for their God, but let me tell you just a little bit about my God. He's the Alpha and Omega. My God. He's the first and the last. My God. He's the beginning and the end. And I carry the word.
So that's church.
Right.
It's a little, the church there is a little different than it was when I was singing the old Red Cross
that's
as a kid. Now
that's not exactly the old rugged cross. That's for sure.
No, not quite. Now the thing is, if you look at I pay attention. My background's Irish, so I pay a lot of attention to the UK. I pay attention to what's happening in Ireland. There's all that stuff happening in Ireland, and there is a ton of. And because I do that, the algorithm knows that I'm interested in Irish stuff, and I get a ton of video of Irish people that are singing these fight songs, and not just fight songs, but also videos along those same lines. And I get that now from the UK, from Britain. So across the world, I don't care almost what country you're talking about, especially in Europe, there's a ton of that kind of music. Now, I believe that Bob Dominator is actually, and the woman there are AI creations. One of the reasons that a lot coming up now is, you never know anymore. You don't know whether somebody's real or
that's too bad. You lost me. I was a big fan, but now I'm already out.
I could be wrong on that. But it might be that Bob is legit and the gal isn't, or it could be the other way around. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
But
All
could
right.
very well be that Bob is an AI creation, and I've listened to a variety of different ones. There's a lot of I think I shared with you the other day. There's a whole class of music called Viking hip hop. Remember, I told you about that Viking hip hop. So
That
yeah,
was over the weekend. I think you texted me that. Yeah.
yeah. And so Viking hip hop is very much the same. One of some of the most popular shows these days. I don't know if you watched Vikings or The Last Kingdom, Ragnar Lothbrok, and which is actual
Yeah.
historical figure. So there's a lot of that very muscular, angry, and that's why I showed the church one too, because that's a very muscular church video. And what is that? What does all that say about the age? What it says about the age that we're in my estimation, is that because systems have broken down, because the structure of our society and the polite way of doing things is broken down, people are reverting to more tribalistic and muscular approaches to the problems in the world. Now, in some ways, that a muscular approach is not always wrong. A muscular approach can be very good,
Yeah.
but it's at the same time that we're getting some positive out of that potentially, and some fun music and some pretty cool videos. We are also seeing and probably going to see a whole lot more of that muscular approach in societal disputes. And I think particularly in Europe, we're probably going to
Yeah.
see more in Europe than we are in the United States, in my estimation, which really, depending on who you believe and depending on who you kind of think has their fingers on the pulse, there's a feeling that we might be returning to more of a feudal kind of world than this nice post-World War II world that we've had.
Can you use a third grade word for feudal? What do you mean by that?
Tribal kingdom, kind of in the feudal age, you had lords and barons, and you had in each one of these little kingdoms of people, it might be city states or it might be just within a county or something. You would have their own little army, and they're all
Okay.
supporting their own very narrow, kind of situation. So as Europe breaks up, we'll probably have a more muscular France, a more muscular
Yeah.
Estonia, a more muscular Germany. But then, in addition to that, the potential is that they will break down even further, and so the potential of the return to the city-state age. The feudal age was a city-state age in which you had barons and you had mercenaries and
Okay.
you had
Yeah.
everybody had their own little navy if they were on a coastal. So that's what happens when you have a breakdown in society. We had this grand cooperation built up after World War II, where you could sail the world with the longest routes of trade in the world were oil. That's the
Yeah.
longest that any ship would sail. Well, that requires an incredibly secure world with incredible cooperation for something that's carrying hundreds of thousands of gallons of oil, millions of dollars worth of oil, to make it across the planet and not be molested by pirates. Well, the likelihood.
It's interesting as I'm kind of thinking through what you're talking about, and thanks for you have to remember, I don't have the education you do, so when you use fancy words like feudal, I don't you lost me. You have to dumb it down for me. But um you and I have talked about like what would a civil war look like in modern times.
Yeah,
Okay, I could kind of see a version, again, not predicting this by any stretch and just thinking through it on the fly, but I could kind of see a version where the big cities adhere to the big, broad, global and national institutions, and
yeah,
everybody else kind of goes into this feudal system, you say, and it wouldn't again, it wouldn't be like combat necessarily, but just we're just dismissing you and your global system and your national
yeah,
bought and paid for system. We're going to go ahead and just let our sheriff and our county commissioner run things around here.
yeah,
And the volume of those micro systems would be such that what could the feds do? I mean,
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
you got thousands of counties. What is it, 3,600 counties or 3,900 counties or whatever? 100 of them are dominated by big cities, but all the rest are not.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
too much real estate and too much stuff for an occupation.
Right.
I could kind of see a version that where it'd be like not a secession, but a just disengagement and a
Right.
disinterest, and take your federal policies and shove it. I don't really care. We're going to operate our own little way over here. We'll have our own little fiefdom or whatever. And
Yeah.
and
Well,
I again, I don't have it mapped out. And I don't know if it would work or not. I'm just saying I can see a version of that. I can imagine a version of that.
see, I think the reality of our current systems that we have had are based on the idea that everybody adheres to them. And then they're not, we don't have structures and systems because they're so powerful that they can enforce compliance. We have the
Right.
systems, we have like an interstate that we can go from California to New York and be reasonably assured that we're not going to be molested too much on the way, just because
Yeah.
we all agree. But when we don't agree, there isn't sufficient power to keep those structures together. And by very nature, when the large collapses, the small is going to, huddle together. And my neighbors and I are going to defend our neighborhood against the neighborhood just down the road, because that's all that's left to us. So I suspect, and so this is a result, and that's like those videos I showed. This is a result of a step along the way towards that, because that's how people are feeling. When people are feeling like that, like the one video was about the North people. The North is right, the in
Yeah.
Scandinavia.
Yeah.
The Irish one is about, we are the Irish. You're not going to beat us, and you just go wherever you want and take out one name and put in another name. And they're all standing strong and they're all singing these defiant songs. And that signals, as much as anything in popular culture, the breakdown that we've been talking about is in not only in full swing, but it's swinging, the pendulum is swinging the exact opposite direction.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I'll come back to what you're talking about in a second. I just looked up the word I was looking for is indifference. If
Mm.
you were just indifferent to the national thing or whatever,
Yeah.
I could see that some version of that playing out. Now come back to the stuff you're talking about. I can't help but notice on that second video, especially the girl I was complimenting on her singing,
Yeah.
whether she's AI or not, I couldn't help but notice it very much looked like she was in a literal like Vietnam war zone. Like
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
garb
Yeah.
and the black face, this makeup on her face
Yeah.
to for camouflage or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, that was noticeable. And to your point about it being in Europe specifically, I'm going to talk about Ireland. Ireland's a place that, from my perspective, again with my limited understanding of history, Ireland was never a big colonial power.
Right.
If anything, Irish people were slaves. They were not enslaving people. They were slaves here in the U.S. and many other places.
Yeah.
But they're lumped in with this colonial like idea and whatever, and they're being, whether it's targeted or just indifference by their politicians, or whether it's by design or incompetence, who knows? But they're dealing with some real issues over there,
Oh yeah.
and and simultaneously here's a country that has never done the sins that Europe and the US and all these other big powers are being charged with. And also Ireland has a pretty, the NRA was no, or the IRA was no joke.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's no doubt. Well, the Irish have a very, very long history of being incredibly militant. The Roman Empire was not
Yeah.
able to fully conquer
Yeah.
Ireland. Well, I hope this next thing is not lost to history, but so I'll share it here just in case. But in ancient Ireland, when two clans or areas would go to war with each other, the custom was that all the warriors would line up on either side. They would all strip naked, and they would all work themselves up into what's called a berserker rage. It didn't matter if it was 30 degrees out. They would work themselves up into a berserker rage, and they would
Yeah.
charge at each other, and they would literally just tear each other physically apart. I mean, animalistic. And of course,
Yeah.
the Romans didn't understand that. They didn't. What is this? A bunch of naked people who are screaming at us. That they
Yeah.
didn't understand how that worked. And I mean, there's one of my favorite books is How the Irish Saved Civilization, which talks about how when Rome took over and wanted to rid Europe of a lot of Christian and other influence, a lot of the monks, they took those works over to Ireland where they couldn't be reached by the Roman Empire, and so a lot of culture was saved as a result of that. Thank you very much. So
Yeah.
the but it is interesting to watch, even so, like that video that's kind of the fantasy video, the guy in back of the one gal who was in the
Yeah,
warrior outfit, he kind of looked like Thor, from
yeah,
Marvel universe. But if I look at a lot of the dress and the way that the people that sing these Irish fight songs are dressed as well, they're standing in front of broken down castles, which is
yeah,
a warfare symbol. A lot of times, in some cases, they're carrying the baseball bats, they're
yeah.
carrying axes. I mean, they're serious, and those are real people who are real serious about defending their country and their way of life, and. So yeah, that's the age
Not
that
only that, but it's absolutely a thumb in the eye of you just sit back and let the government take care of
yeah,
it. Your best interest would be if you just go along because the government's smarter and more capable than
right.
you. This is the opposite. This is like nobody's
Yeah,
gonna be here to save me but me, and
yeah,
we're gonna do it.
that's exactly right.
And
And yeah, that's exactly right.
ironically, I remember when I was in junior high and high school that one of the trendy phrases was "think globally, act locally,"
Yeah,
and I've been thinking about that a lot over the last couple of months as uh yes, and not the way you meant it.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
the
yeah.
global affairs are going in a disaster. We better get our communities in order. And I would not be shocked one bit if that becomes a trend where people like, again, not a war. I don't mean like that, but just dismissal and indifference of you do what you want in New York and you do what you want in Chicago and LA. In my little town of 2,800
Yeah,
people or 14,000 people, we're going to take care of our own,
yeah.
and nobody's here to save us. When you guys think you have a system that actually does what you say it will, we'll take your call perhaps,
Give us a shout.
but don't waste our time. Leave us alone.
Yeah, I honestly think that's inevitable at this point. I really think that's inevitable because with a system, a large scale system like the globalist system is so complex that if you pull out two or three gears from the system, the entire thing comes crashing down. It's not like you can stop doing this and stop doing that and then it works. I mean, if all of a sudden piracy on the open seas doubles, I mean, that affects everybody from, Tacoma, Washington, it affects everybody everywhere. And so just that one thing, the US, for instance, withdrawing as the maritime guarantor of safe passage across the planet, if it were to happen, would be a huge blow to the entire planet. And recovering from that is not something that's done like at the next election. So recovering from that and creating a new global system it's certainly not going to happen in our lifetime. It
Yeah.
probably takes, centuries potentially, because I think if we look back, if we're not going to be around, but 500 years from now, if we look back on the post World War II system, I think people were going to say, "Wow, that was an amazing, weird fluke of history. That how almost in disbelief that it ever could have occurred like that." But we got to experience that, fortunately, for the majority of our lives. But the next generation very likely won't.
Yeah, and when you're talking about piracy, my first thought, well, one person's pirate is another person's United States government confiscating the
Yeah,
enemy's tanker.
sure. Oh,
So
I do
you can make
expect.
a pretty plausible case that piracy never really went away. It's just who the pirates were that were okay
Yeah,
changed. And again, going back to what I was saying earlier about, okay, when you guys claim all this globalist stuff as the way to go, uh, we don't really have any demonstrable proof that that's actually accurate. Like you have these claims that it's going to be great one day, but so far, what we're seeing in the real world is um, you're not doing much different than the guys you said were the bad guys for doing the things you're doing now. And show me how you've really helped anybody other than the top, 1% or 10% of the incomes in the world. And short of having evidence of how your system actually has improved lives, we're not really interested. We'll figure it out ourselves. Thank you for playing, and we're going to be over here doing our thing.
well, and I do honestly. I mean, I suspect there'll be a big upsurge in our lifetimes of state-sponsored piracy, of overt state-sponsored piracy.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Well,
you
I mean, you already got it in Somalia and other places
yeah,
like that. I mean, it's it's not, let's say, state sponsored, but it's tribe sponsored or whatever. Like you were saying about the feudal system and the overlords and whatever. Well, they're they're what I can't remember the term they use in Somalia for the guys who were like in charge of the clan, but it's something like that. The whatever. Uh, it's their version of a state saying, okay, we're
yeah,
going to go take this stuff, just like it's our version of the state saying we're going to take your stuff. Like it's
right.
all the same.
And all the local maritime powers are probably going to have tolls. The cost of doing business and
Yeah,
getting stuff shipped
yeah.
from one place to
What's
another is going to
yeah.
dramatically increase.
What's good for Iran is good for Somalia, and what's good for Somalia be good for the United States, and what's good for the
Absolutely.
United States be good for Britain and France, and like why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the world that we're facing, and it's going to be a much more expensive world to do business in because there's going to be tolls to pay regardless of what you do. I mean, one of the things that was never actually gotten rid of across a lot of the world was the dash system, where if you were to go through, a checkpoint in many countries, you would have to bribe who was ever standing at the guard at the checkpoint. Now,
Yeah.
America. We're like, whoa, bribing. That's very uncouth. But that was the way that you got along in a number of places across the planet. You just bribe people, and there was nothing immoral or
Again,
irregular about it.
one person's bribery is another person's campaign donation. Like it's all.
Exactly.
And I would argue that yes, while things might get more expensive because of tolls, they might get a whole lot cheaper because you're not going to be paying taxes to these things you don't support anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
So
think it's going to look a lot different.
I really, one of the things I'm most interested in after we get through this fourth turning in this tumultuous time and we get more to we're all much more aligned. I am
Right.
truly looking forward to what the music is going to be like. I
Yes.
think that the post-war music, you take from like let's say 1957 through 1970,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
that era of music, I mean, it set the tone for everything that followed. And I can't
Yeah.
wait to see what it's like in 2040 to
Yeah.
2050. I truly I'm really excited about that because
Yes.
everything we do now musically is just a play on what we did 70 years ago or 60 years ago. It's not that much different.
A return
Yeah.
of Patty Page, and how much is that doggy in the window? I mean, yeah, if
Yeah,
it's
I don't know if I'd anticipate that, but
no, no, probably not that. No, but it is interesting if you look back at the music of those of the 1950s and 1960s, how innocent and how very almost I don't even know what the word is for it. The some of
yeah,
the most popular songs.
naively cheerful, I would say. Naively
Yeah,
cheerful, maybe.
that's a
Yeah.
good way to put it. Naively cheerful. I like that. I wouldn't have any problem with returning to some naivete that's happy and fun.
I would take some Buddy Holly today if the mood was appropriate all day long.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Well, we covered a whole lot of stuff today.
We did
We didn't miss anything, I don't think, today. We covered conspiracies and music and war and AI singers. Like we
the
covered
whole
it all,
human
Dave.
experience, the entire human experience.
Well, as Dave said in the beginning, if there's anything think that we said especially right or wrong, we'd love to hear about it. You can give us your feedback at unsilentpodcast.com, or Rumble has a great comments section. As we've discussed, we're trying to explain to future generations what this world is like living through in this tumultuous era, as they undoubtedly will look back and wonder what the hell is wrong with those people. So this is Dave and Brian signing off. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Do you want to be unsilent? Make your voice heard on our social media channels and share where you think we got it right or wrong. Go to unsilentpodcast.com for social links so you can join the discussion.